Thank you, and thanks for giving me the graveyard shift, Nell. That's great. So hopefully you're all G'd up on caffeine, and we can look at some fun pictures and have a bit of a chat about what I've done, and what we can all do together. So far, it's just been a great conference, and I didn't know what to expect, but really getting some ideas, because even though I am a private practitioner, Jude and I were just discussing that we wouldn't say we were community clinics, but we probably are to some extent, and certainly what we do in the Northern Territory is a branch of being a community clinic. Thank you for the opportunity to tell my story. Hopefully it will be interesting and you'll find some aspects of it useful in all the different areas that you guys have come from. So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of how we got to where we were. How did I end up working in the Northern Territory? I'd finished having my kids and I had a career, and I was looking for what else I could do to contribute back to society with the skills that I had. And I knew there was work overseas, but it was still a bit impractical for me to go away for months at a time and work in Nepal or India. So through a family member, I became aware of the problem in the Northern Territory in particular, and decided that I'd try and find a way to help up there with the professional skills that I had. It was a bit of a tortuous process, and eventually someone put me on to AMREC, and you'll hear a bit about them along the way, but a not-for-profit organisation based out of Darwin that's about animal management in the rural and remote Indigenous communities. And it's been through them that I've gone along and done some of those other things that were mentioned as far as community cultural awareness weekends and volunteering on existing programs. And I've also tried to promote the work that's been done throughout Canberra, because there's some influential people that it'd be good to get in the ears of down there. So the other obvious reason that you're trying to do this work, apart from the animal welfare, which is why we're all here, is that you do actually get to influence the health of the people directly as well. The animals can act as a problem as far as zoonotic diseases. There are lots of internal and external parasites, and dog bites are considered as zoonoses as well. If the animals are healthier, if they don't have diarrhoea, if they're not sitting and scratching all night, the people will bond better with them, and I think almost everyone in this room would be heavily into creating and facilitating improvement in human-animal bond. So we're hoping to achieve that outcome as well. The other thing that has become really obvious, which I'd heard about, was that when you've got a lot of undesexed dogs together, they spend a lot of the night chasing each other around, and there's a lot of squealing and barking. And a young mum came up to me in a community one day and said, "You've got to help me, I'll go and get this dog, but every time she comes on heat we don't sleep for 3 weeks, and I've got a baby and I'm tired." And so she threw the baby off to one of the many aunties and went and found these dogs that were causing her grief, and she was so grateful that we were able to fix that problem for her. The other thing that I've noticed over the last couple of years is that the animals that we have desexed and treated regularly for parasites are very healthy, and the owners are starting to be very proud of the fact that they have the same animals that they had the last time that we were there. And a lovely old lady was sitting on a veranda, and I walked up, and you're always not quite sure how you're going to be received each time, but Violet said, "Oh, I don't need you," and I was like, oh man, and I was about to sort of hang my head and say no worries and walk away. She said, "All the same dogs as last year, no work for you to do this time." And I was like, yes, this is awesome, this is such a great outcome. So the people are really happily now telling me that they don't have any dogs that need desexing this time, or that there's just these two need doing. So it's been a really exciting journey for me. So where do I do my work? It's in the middle of absolutely nowhere. It's interestingly called Utopia, and it's an old cattle station, but it's a community. It's not a great picture, but I couldn't find anything else. But essentially this is Alice Springs. We fly into there via Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane from Canberra, and then we get into some sort of vehicle, maybe dustproof, maybe not, and head out to Utopia. Takes about 3.5 hours to get there. It came about, the program that we're doing came about because the workers in the human health clinic had identified a problem with the dogs, and they'd been trying to work with the Berkeley Shire Council to address that, which is part of the council's responsibility, but they were having trouble getting it started. So they then contacted Emmerich, and Emmerich identified that it was a potential community that I could take over and do the work in. So I went with Jude, who you'll hear from shortly, and had a look and decided that, yep, I could manage that. So since August of 2011, we've been going there every 6 months, and then there's a team up there this week doing the work. So we've been trying to not upset the local vets. As you've mentioned, there are some private practices that you come up against when you're trying to do this community work, but we've been trying to make sure that we maintain good relations with them and not tread on their toes if possible. Okay. So how is it possible for us to do what we do? This is a great picture because there are so many people involved, and this is the core of my my brief, I think, is to show how a desexing program can be a really good collaboration. I'll just quickly point out the people, but Jan is from Emmerich. Up the back here is a nurse from the human clinic in Utopia. There's a policeman up there. They always come and have a look. This is a Shire vet from Berkeley Shire. There's another Emmerich worker in here. There's myself. There's another. This is Michael, who I do the work with, one of our nurses that we brought. And then Bill is just a volunteer, a friend of my dad's. My dad and Bill came up and they just cleaned kits and noted down all the work, and they had a fabulous week. And each time we take a non-veterinary person who wants to contribute and has been looking for a way to contribute, and they have always raved about the opportunity that they've had to be with us. So those people are significant. The other people that I will mention some of them later, but I have worked with the Australian Veterinary Association along the way. They have supported with some of the work, particularly that I've done, or the promotion in Canberra. And the Canberra community, who I'll mention again along the way, has been absolutely amazing. And I'm sure that you will all find that people are incredibly generous, especially when they can see directly where the money's going, and we can report back to them and say, this is exactly what we've done and these are the outcomes. And I was saying to Julia at lunchtime that I do have a private practice and I do treat all these animals, but they're generally animals of animal lovers, and they'll just come in with $500 cash when they see the work that we're doing and say, oh, go help those dogs, go help those dogs. And, so we have an interesting combination of a community clinic within a private clinic, I think, at the moment. If we charged out what each dog should cost that we do each time, it wouldn't be $500,000 worth, but it's certainly a lot of money that we don't account for in our P&L. So where have we got to in the last 2 years? These photos, we've tried very much to, and obviously mainly through the support of Emmerich and the Shire Council, involve the animal management workers. We want to empower the local people to help themselves and to have a job within the community. There's this group of people up here are from all different places, but there is this guy here we employ each time we go to Utopia. He comes around and helps us be aware of who can talk to who and where we should go, and he explains in local language what it is we're trying to do. And there's two James is from just up the road, and he's usually very helpful as far as getting the message through. And the other, Eddie works for Emmerich and Jan's from Emmerich, and there's a couple of sometimes we have people coming from the neighbouring communities just because we have a program running and they come down to do the training with us. So one of the things that we think that we're achieving is that we have an improved acceptance throughout the community. The first time that I went up with Jude, there was a lot of sitting around talking. We might have driven 50 kilometres to come back with one cat and no dogs. And there was a few people that said categorically we weren't to touch their dogs, which was fine. We just sort of had a chat with them. We usually gave them some ivermectin and walked away. We had a few great people who helped us get started, and once the dogs did come back and the next year they looked fabulous and the next door's dogs didn't look fabulous, the message started to trickle through the community. We're really proud to now report that we have been to all the outstations, so there are 16 outstations, and even the very last one that sent us away for three trips in a row invited us in to do their dogs last time, and I think that's where a vast majority of the work this time will come from as well. So I think patience is very important in these programs, and this is just a great photo because you never know what you're going to find out there. You can be having a very difficult day and it's hot and you're working hard, and then you turn up at a house and there's a pig drinking milk out of a bowl with all the dogs, and you just like throw your hands up and you think, well, I'll just remember this moment because it's not likely to happen again. This is where we did some work. The last time I went in April, we moved the clinic that we were running out to one of the communities that had been most resistant, so that we were in their area. They could come and see if they wanted to, and we did a lot of work down there under the awning. But we also maintain a very high standard of care, and we use anaesthetic machines, we have oxygen, we have all the highest standards of pain relief and care. We use high quality suture material, and so these animals are treated absolutely as well as the animals that we would treat back in our fancy clinic in Canberra. So we are very precious about our standards of care, and there's no risk that these animals aren't getting everything that they need. This is part of the collaborative aspect of what we do, is just how amazing it's been, how interested all of our business partners have been in our program. And I think people have been sitting back waiting for an opportunity to embrace something that's so positive and so tangible. People can actually see where we're going. They can picture Central Australia, and we report back to them each time we go with pictures and statistics and that sort of thing. We've now established a relationship with Charles Sturt University, so we're able to start talking about animal welfare and the Indigenous community issues with the students at that stage in their careers. So we've started to see some of these people coming out of the universities ready to go and volunteer, whether it be on an AMRIC supported program or elsewhere. We've also offering for the students that come through the clinic, if they want to come through and do their rotation with us at the time that the program's on, one of their weeks it can be in Utopia, and the university's okay with that. So we had a fabulous student come with us last time as one of her small animal rotations, and it's certainly different to a week in Canberra. Boehringer and Advance are two companies that have been incredibly supportive. Advance actually gives us money out of their charitable budget, and Boehringer have been that all these companies have charitable budgets, and it's just a matter of appealing to them, and you have to do it fairly formally and put a proposal and where they should expect their money to go, and also that reasonably they expect a result of what you've been doing. But I would encourage you to not underestimate the people who are willing to or have a budget to use. You just have to tap into it and find these people, particularly in the corporate world. The advance funding came from a trip. Some of our vets were invited down to look at the factory in Wodonga, and so I went down, and their rep knew what I was doing, and I presented to all the staff at the Wodonga branch, and they were in tears. They're all animal lovers, and then I came out, and within probably half an hour of that presentation, we'd secured funding for the following 12 months, which has meant we can do everything really well. We can, spend some money on things other than just the materials that are required for desexing. So as far as collaborating with all your organisations, don't just sit back. You've got to go out looking for this money, and you'll be amazed at what's there. The other, as I mentioned before, the wider Canberra community, that's just only because, and it's actually not just Canberra, but it's started to expand to towns beyond Canberra, but people want to help, and we've have had 2 very successful fundraisers in the last 12 months. We've had people, we advertise all through the different media outlets. They usually do it, we've not paid for any of it, so it's all been for free. These people are partly people that we know, they're clients from our clinics, but they're just people coming from everywhere, lots of different animal welfare organisations, but also just genuine dog lovers or people with an Indigenous interest. We've had 120 people at these fundraisers, and we have a silent auction, and their generosity just blows me away. So whilst it's a bit of an effort to get in and organise something like this, not only are you making money, but you're creating all these channels of awareness, and it's really quite interesting what emails you start to get back. And being in Canberra in particular, I get emails randomly saying, oh, I'm in this department and I'm just letting you know that there's this grant that you could apply for, make sure you apply by this time next year. And so and then you've got assistance with friends who are in the public service who know how to write grant proposals, and so I can sort of shift that stuff along the chain. Our accountants, our business accountants do all this, our accounting for free. You've got people wanting to come all the time because it's not that easy to get into certain areas of volunteer work. So I've got lineups of people that want to come out to Utopia and to help. And as I mentioned, people are often donating. It's not just money, but it's their services which we then auction. So gym memberships and holiday house rentals, and it's really amazing. And the other good thing was this time the Utopian artists, who are very famous, it was organised for them to send down about 12 paintings, original paintings, and we auctioned them at our fundraiser with great success. So we're hopeful that they're starting to understand that if they contribute a little bit to what we're doing and to raising the money, that they'll get good care for their animals. Cool. So just to give you a bit of an idea of where we've come to and some results, we definitely have some healthier dogs. This is a great pin-up dog. I couldn't find the before picture, but this dog was pretty awful looking the first time we went, and the next time it's just a picture of health, as is this one. They've got full skin coats, hair coats. They haven't got scabies at all. They're happy and they're in good body condition. They're not under reproductive stress at all. And a lot of these dogs that have been desexed have become far more relaxed, and they're all just sitting around the owners, which is a perfect outcome for us. And this one was from the house where she's had the same 8 dogs for 3 trips in a row now, which is almost unheard of. And I can attest to the fact that they are all healthy dogs, and they are the same ones that we've seen before. The nursing staff were the people that instigated this program, and they are significantly happier. They were scared to get out of the cars at night when they went to the communities to implement their health programs day and night. And I was just only there a couple of weeks ago, and there's one community that's been a bit slack with us doing their dogs, and now the nurses won't get out of the car at night. So the team that's up there this week is going to go down and set up a clinic there and make sure that problem is addressed the best that we can. The other staggering outcomes are that there's been a 76% reduction in the skin sores of the people. So the clinic is not having to treat so many skin sores. They're not having to use as much of their funding on medications. And most importantly, the people are obviously feeling happier not to have all these skin sores that are a result of the transient scabies infection. The people seem to be really proud of the fact that their animals are looking healthy, and the ones that we've had a lot of success with their communities, they're really quick to give you the ones that aren't looking too flash, so that you can make them look as good as the other 10 dogs that the community has. And they're also grateful for the fact that there aren't so many dogs that are aggressive and cheeky within the community. And as it's a fairly animal welfare-based conference, I can't stress enough how much healthier and happier the dogs actually look. So you're getting good outcomes in many aspects of what we're doing. The other thing which is important and has been mentioned a few times this morning is that we're trying to do a reasonable amount of work with education. And Eileen from Emmerich came up the last couple of trips and did a program within the schools, and I'm intending to continue with that the next time I go. And we're actually looking at addressing or starting. I do a lot of behaviour work in my clinic, and I'd really like to implement some understanding of animal behaviour and animal training, so these people are engaged with their animals and their human-animal bond is improved further than what it is. There's no question that these people love their animals, but they haven't had access to some of the information that we have about their health. They think 2 or 3 years old is old, and so we may be able to continue to help them understand how to look after these dogs, but further than that, to enjoy their company and enrich the dogs' lives as well. This has really been very exciting for us, having all these opportunities to work with so many different people. This was our first team when we went with Jude, and you've got the Shire people, the people from Canberra, the local health clinic workers in that clinic photo. And this was the last trip that I went on, and you can see that it's just expanding each time as far as who's involved. You've got just general members of the community, of Australian community that have come. You've got lots of people from private practices in Canberra that are donating their time and energy, and therefore not making the money at home because we're not generally, it's costing to come. You've got the Indigenous workers there, and then you've got the Shire and the Emmerich members as well. This is us back in Alice Springs. That the first coffee back in Alice Springs is always pretty tasty. And we've got banners, so these are the Barkly Shire banners now, and I like this picture. It's the Emmerich vehicle backwards now, but there are so many people involved in what we do. So where to from where we're at now? We would like to, one of the things I'm working on, and which hopefully is happening as we speak, is that there are some kids that are keen in animal welfare and management up in the schools. And so we have, from some of our fundraising efforts, have some money that we would like to help a number of children start on certificates in animal management or animal welfare, and then hopefully they can be champions for what we do within the communities. We're just trying to work out the logistics of that, but they could do some of their work experience when we're there. We'd be also very happy to welcome them into our clinics in Canberra. We could fly them down and they could have that opportunity in a different clinic setting. But most importantly, having people within the community promoting what we do, and I'd happily have them organise it, and we just come in and do the mechanics of it along the way would be an ideal outcome. We're looking at, we've maintained our program for 2 years. We've now got a bit of money to think that we could set up another program. I've been communicating with the next Shire down the road to see whether there's a couple of communities there that we could adopt simultaneously with Utopia. We don't want to be going and doing things in too big and grand scale that we can't maintain. So we've been very slow in adopting anybody else, but we've now got an opportunity to go and start up in another community. We want to do what we can to have the rest of the world and the rest of Australia know what it is that we are doing, what they can do to help, and particularly, as I mentioned, in Canberra, we have all these organisations on our doorstep. We feel very strongly that this work should be funded to some extent by the government. It's a significant health issue, and the One Health concept is obvious with what we do. We've been trying to talk to organisations in Canberra. I'm going to a meeting in a couple of weeks where there's a forum on Indigenous health, and we'll be promoting what we do there. I've just come across the person who's the head of the community health organisations, and so I've got an opportunity to talk to her. And most recently I went out with the Governor-General of Australia to Utopia and showed her what we were doing out there. And she's obviously a very busy person, but she's a great contact to have, because when I said, oh, look, I need to try and get not-for-profit status, she said, oh, I know the person who's the head of that department here, you do it this way. Or, I said, oh, it'd be great if Qantas could help us because it costs us so much to fly up there. She said, oh, yeah, good friends with Alan Joyce, see what we can do. So it was just an endless line of possible opportunities, and that just came from me emailing the Governor-General on, and saying, this is what I do, would you be interested in helping me? So it was a very incredible trip to be going out there with this entourage of people, but the most fabulous thing about it was that they all looked really scary and I looked familiar, and the community members were coming and holding my hand because I was the one that looked like somebody that they knew compared to all these other people. So that made me feel like what we were doing has been successful. Emma is going to talk to you about the council-run programs, and she's obviously doing that brilliantly, and Jude will talk about all her varied experiences throughout the world and the outstanding contribution she's made. This is obviously another model. There's lots of these different ways of doing things, and we got involved in it little bit by little bit, and we started out with 1 or 2 partners and have ended up with an enormous number of people contributing to what we do, and we found that to be very successful. And I think in some respects it contributes to its sustainability, because there's so many people that have buy-in to the project, and it's probably proofs it against falling over, because if you're just running out of a little bit of energy from somewhere, someone else is excited and helpful, and that's really great. Having so many people helps for the message to be spread far and wide. We've had some fantastic highs, and I've told you about a few of them. We've had some outstanding difficult times, which happens absolutely guaranteed when you go to the Northern Territory to work. You're just waiting to see what it will be this time, and you think that you've got everything sorted, and then you turn up there and your surgical instruments don't arrive, and so you're supposed to do a desexing program without surgical instruments. So these things happen, and yet you come up with a way of dealing with that. Might be a 400k quick trip to Tennant Creek to borrow equipment or whatever, but the opportunity to work with so many wonderful and committed people has been a real highlight for me, and the engagement of the wider community has just been absolutely overwhelming. I just had no understanding of the generosity of people in such you hear of people donating to organisations, but when it's to something that you're doing, it's very humbling, and I always feel amazed that people will do that. But most importantly, we found that there's been a significant improvement in animal welfare, and as a result of some culturally sensitive and sustainable programming, we are seeing ever-improving local community engagement. So with collaborative desexing programs, I think it's worth considering in what you're doing and looking for who can help you, and it's an option as far as getting to zero in the future. Thanks.